What's up, guys? Leland here with Bottom Table Tyrants, and I wanted to see if we can improve our combat a little bit. I always feel like that in tabletop RPG fights that they feel like a Link video game to me. It's like I hit, and then they hit back, and then I hit, and I guess so. This is what it feels like to me. So, how do we fix this? How do we not feel like it's this I hit, you hit, I hit, you hit, back and forth that just kind of feels not amazing to me? It just feels like a very basic video game type of hit back and forth system, and I don't love it. I want it to feel amazing. I want it to feel like an action movie is happening during a combat. So how do we accomplish that? I have some ideas, and let me share them with you. I might be crazy. I might be totally off with this. I want you guys to comment below in the comment section and let me know what you think. Does this work for you? Could it work for you? I definitely think this is a dungeon master and player thing that if you don't have the right dungeon master and player mix, this probably won't happen. And but at the same time, I think you can train and teach your players to be able to do this and cooperate back and forth and kind of bounce off each other so that this works. I'm going to show you my ideas for trying to get this to happen. So here we go, guys. Let's dive in. So first, let's start with a few key points. You have to teach your players how to narrate. This means instead of just saying, I hit him with my sword, I want to know how you hit him with your sword. Did you go high with it? Did you go low with it at his feet? Did you stab straight into his belly in a kind of a mid-range shot? I want to know kind of the height range, high, mid, or low, that you tried to strike him, and what type of strike. Was it an overhand chop, just a put all your strength into an attack? Was it a flurry of blows where you're just attacking all over the place? And we'll kind of show you some examples of that, to where one attack I feel like doesn't mean just one swipe of the Link sword. It means a flurry of blows if possible, or it means that double-handed axe, bring it over, bringing the hammer down on top of them, strike. It could be both, really. So it can be a flurry of blows or just an all-out momentum strike. So we want our characters and our PCs, the players who are playing the PCs, to narrate this to us, talk to us, tell us how you want to attack this creature that you're fighting or person that you're fighting. Now it's your job to describe how the opponent that your PC is fighting reacts, because you're the DM, you're in control of them. How do they react to being hit? How do they take it? Do they scream in pain? Do they grunt or grit their teeth in anger? And then now they attack back. So the enemy attacks back. Okay, and the important thing here is missing. The answer is you roll the dice. You control the game. You're the dungeon master. You control hits and misses. In the end, and trust me, we always make a joke of that, where I drop the die, I don't even look down at it, and I go, well, the character hit. So it's kind of a joke with us, but at the same time, if it's cinematically useful for that enemy to miss because something you can tell that player is got something up their sleeve, then this is how I want you to set this up. So you set up a miss and describe how that miss happens. Maybe they go low and the character jumps over it, causing their sword to get stuck in a tree over here. Or maybe they go high, which puts them off balance because the character ducked and now they've overswung and lost their balance and are tilting in a way that leaves them open. They have an open side over here. Maybe their shield's over here. Now they've exposed themselves. They're open to a strike. So that should make their roll easier. I would say that could lower their AC is one instance, something to consider as you let the player do what they're going to do. Maybe they go straight down and their sword, is down low, stuck in the ground, possibly if they rolled very poorly, or just at least they're totally exposed because the blade that they have, especially if it's like a two-handed axe or two-handed sword, ends up down low. They don't have anything. You got no protection up here if your sword's down here. You got to try and bring it up as fast as possible, but you've overextended yourself and left yourself vulnerable. This is where the player character can react and make an attack. The main word I want you guys to key in on is allow. I want you to allow them to attack things that aren't just the bad guy. Maybe they want to attack the weapon hand they're holding. Maybe they want to attack the shield they're holding and try and knock it open to to expose them for maybe another player character is going to attack them next in order of initiative order. So you're trying to knock that shield out of the way so that another player character can attack and attack an exposed enemy, especially if they have a really high AC. If say they have an AC of 18 or 20, something really crazy, because they have this giant shield or something like that, you want to knock that. You want to say, okay, my character wants to try and make it easier for another character by knocking their sword. I want to attack their shield, and I want you to allow that. Keyword allow. I want you to allow things. I get it that disarming an opponent is an ability, and knocking stuff out of people's hands is an ability. Things like that. Don't get stuck on the rules. If a character wants to try it, yeah, it might be harder for that thief to do something that is actually a fighter ability. Doesn't mean he can't try and do it. Just might mean that the AC or DC is a little bit higher than what it would be for that fighter character who has that ability to do that. Don't discourage players from doing stuff that aren't on their character sheet. Let them be free thinkers. Let them do whatever they want. They can always try something. So it might be hard to do, but hey, you get good characters who are, and again, if they're trying to do something that sounds cool, give it a chance. Don't make it a 27 to do, knock that thing out of their hand because they don't have that feat. That's going to spoil their creativity, and it's going to clamp down and make them not try and go outside of what their characters can do on their sheet. You want to encourage creativity, so allow them to do these things. Okay, so let's learn how to narrate better. Okay. So instead of this, we want this.
Avenge you, Father.
I will avenge you, Father.
Let's slow this down and explain in game terminology how this scene might happen in a combat, or right before combat begins and then going into starting the combat. Okay, so before combat begins, usually what I'm going to expect a player to do is they know they're kind of facing off against the enemy. They can see him. They know there's a bad guy there, and that bad guy knows they're there. So the player character, I would expect them to say something like, I want to hold an action and be ready for combat. You hear that a lot. I guess my player characters would use that sometimes. They might say they want to make ready. They want to have their weapons drawn, stuff like that. They want to prepare to react. These are all terms that I want you to give to your players to use, because to be honest, most of this stuff is going to be reactions. It's reaction attacks. And I hear you. I hear it in the comments already. Guys, reaction is an ability that you get later on. I don't care. I'm telling you, reactions breed creativity. It creates creativity by being able to react to attack. Now, what's the downside? You can't make it too powerful. So what is the trade-off? If you're going to react and do something that technically, per the rules, per the book, you can't do, which I hate. I don't even want to say that. Per the book, you can't do that. That's not in my world. You can do whatever you want to try and do. So as a reaction, you can do a thing. Now, what I would usually say is reactions need to come when you have the initiative. Like if your character's higher in the initiative order and kind of says, I want to wait and do a reaction. That's a great way to set it up. But it doesn't mean that it can't happen, because here's the other thing. If, say, that player character is lower in the initiative order but wants to react to an enemy going a little bit higher. I like this for two reasons. First of all, you can make it a little harder because they're reacting. They're kind of going first when they shouldn't be able to, which means you should make it a little harder. So if it's an AC 15 to hit them, now it probably should be an AC 17 to hit them, because they're reacting quicker than what they usually would. So you're going to bump the difficulty up because they're trying to go up here instead of down here when their normal turn would go off. The second part of this is it allows chain reaction events. And chain reaction events is meaning that spear that gets chucked, they grab it and chuck it right back. That is a chain reaction. It's a boom, boom. This happens, this happens. Because if you think about it, it would be weird if guy throws a spear, an attack happens where this guy's fighting like over here, he's fighting over here, and then another guy fights over here, and then this, okay, now we're to our character who's going to do that, and he says, I want to catch that spear that got thrown 2 combats ago and throw it back. And it's like, that's clunky. And it feels weird to say like, okay, all this other stuff has been happening. Now you catch the spear that got thrown and chuck it back. That reaction allows it to happen in order Boom, right then. Now, the other downside of making it, it's harder for them if they were lower in the order. The second thing is they gave up their turn to do that reaction. So they don't get to go down here when they wanted to because they reacted up here. So they forego their turn further on down in the initiative track. And same thing, to be honest, if they hold their reaction, or hold their action, I guess you'd say, and then react when the guy throws a spear, they chuck it back, try and hit him with it. Okay, their turn's done too until the start of the new order. So that's how I would do that. You always lose your turn using reaction, unless of course you have a reaction ability or something on that you pick up as part of your character's abilities later on down the game. So to me, when you gain reaction, now you have 2 reactions is the way I think about it. So now you can do 2 reactions in the middle of combat, which again allows you to do multiple things in combat, and it gets super cinematic. That's what we want. We want to encourage creativity and cinematic events. So we covered that they're going to say they want to make ready. Combat really hasn't started yet, but they're going to be prepared for combat. All of a sudden, start of the initiative phase, we roll initiative. Boom, combat starts. An enemy rolls high, and he's going to chuck that spear. So he throws the first spear, chucks that on, and here we go. We're into combat. So he throws the spear, he misses. You want to describe. The spear whistles left, on the left side of the character as it whistles past. You want to describe that, be descriptive, explain to him where the spear is, where it missed him, where it ended up after it missed him. It's going to be over here on his left side. That enables that character who's kind of held his action to say, okay, here's what I want to do. I want to do a reaction, catch the spear, and chuck it back at him. First, so there's going to be 2 rolls. First, you're going to want to roll, I would say this is probably going to be, in my mind, it says DC, like a DC 20 to catch the spear with like a dexterity check. Dexterity, catch it. It's going to be a 20. But because it's freaking cool, I personally would bump it down to like an 18. So let's say you have a character, so it's going to be hard to do. I want to make this catch hard to do. So an 18, if they can roll this, they catch the spear and do it. If they don't, no big deal. It flies on past, no big deal. He missed him anyways. Not a problem. And again, a lot of these happen off of misses. I want characters reacting after that bad guy misses his attack. So DC 18 to catch the spear. There's the first roll. Let's say they make that. They catch it. They turn it around. They throw it. Now it's just a regular straight up attack. That's just a mook up there up on the tower that chucked it down. So I'd see AC 10 to hit him easy, because you want to make it a good, he did the hard thing. Don't make it a second hard thing to hit the guy back. So DC 20 to catch the spear, AC 10 to hit the guy back, but then their turn is over. They use their reaction. They don't get to go later on in the combat round. They're going to have to wait till the next round and start again and go from there. And maybe they react again. Maybe they just continually, I would say a high dexterity character like a rogue, a thief, anybody with high dexterity, even if you played like a fighter that had with like kind of trained high dexterity, they are more reactionary characters. They want to wait, parry that blow and then do an attack. They're not the big melee, smashers that are just going to try and chop stuff with axes. They want to do reactionary attacks. And that also feeds into that cinematic, they're acting and doing things the way a high dexterity character would that way. Their reactions are their attacks. Okay, so how do we do this in, say, like a boss fight or in a long drawn out combat? A combat that you want to last more than just a turn or two where, it's just he attacks, he misses, you strike him down, you strike down that goblin, you strike down that kobold. What if it's a big monster or a bunch of characters, something like that? So how do we control that fight? And here's what we're going to do. We don't want this. What we do want is this fight that I have with, this is from Lucifer. I think I talked about this in another episode, where this is the demon Mazikeen, and she is a high dexterity, I would say like a level 10 rogue would be kind of her character. And she would see probably AC 16-ish around there, I'm guessing. And she's fighting a swordsman. This swordsman probably has an AC around 15 or 14, I would guess. He's a mid-level boss, is the way I'd consider him. This is, they're fighting in this deal to win, information for Lucifer in the fight. And he has put his champion up, which is the player character, Mazikeen, against the Yakuza champion, which is this swordsman. Okay, for this fight, we're going to say Maze is probably a level 10 rogue. She has AC 16, dexterity +4, maybe +5, depending on if she had like a 20 for a dexterity, and then her proficiency is a +4. So when she has a weapon that she knows how to use well, she's going to have like a +8 to her roll, which is how a lot of this stuff could happen. So again, this might be for a higher level character to do this type of stuff, but don't discourage your lower level characters from doing this. And if anything, they should be fighting easier enemies anyways, so their AC levels should be lower to allow them to still do this type of cinematic action. The swordsman is probably around AC 14 or 15 is what I'd guess. Let's say 14 for this example. In the example I'm giving here in this fight, Maze has the initiative. She's the one waiting for him. So she's always going to hold her action, waiting for him to make an attack and hopefully miss. If he doesn't miss, no problem. She'll do a regular attack. But if he does, she's going to take advantage of that. And let's show you how she does that. So, turn 1. Swordsman attacks. His blades spin all around her, left, right, and she dodges that and punches him in the face. 4 points of damage, no problem. Just a strike to the face. She's unarmed, he's armed. That's okay. She's just fighting defensively. Second attack, turn 2. Swordsman attacks, misses his spinning blades, goes over her head, and leaves him open. Here is where she now does, I would say, probably rolls a crit with her hit. So she's not only doing a punch, but she's doing a strong punch. And this is like a crit hit, and so probably does double damage, so probably like 8 damage, which is good. But I would say it staggers her. I don't like using stunned, because stunned completely makes them unable to do anything. I like using what I call staggered, and staggered would be pretty much any person attacking them has advantage, and that enemy or PC for that matter, whoever gets staggered has disadvantage on their next turn, but only their next turn. After that, they're fine. They just kind of recover from it. But for a turn, they're staggered, and so they're going to be at disadvantage, people attacking them at advantage. So this sets up the next series of attacks. Turn 3. Swordsman attacks, misses, as again, she ducks the swing. A lot of these she ducks, so again, he's always going high, is what I would describe that as. Every time he's going high, it's kind of like that rock, paper, scissors. If I go high, she goes low, I miss. But if I go high and she goes high, I connect. Something like that is the way you think about this. If I go low, she jumps and she goes high, then I'm going to miss. Stuff like that. So I always think of it in that high, middle, low type of tiers of attacks. Okay, so he misses. Now she makes her reaction as usual. She's holding her action, makes the reaction. So in this one, she's going to do a disarm attack. To me, a disarming attack, especially if you don't have the ability, really shouldn't do any damage. It's almost like the staggering, but because he was staggered last turn, now she has advantage on this type of attack. So she understands that the attack she's about to do isn't going to really do any damage. It's just going to help her accomplish the thing she wants to do. So she's going to do a reaction attack to disarm. That's the kind of the phrasing I would use. He left himself overextended with his last attack. I believe leaving his left arm out. Maze grabs his extended left arm and strikes his face with the elbow to disarm the left-hand weapon for herself. So she hits him in the face with her elbow, and then and that allows her to disarm him from his left hand. Now she has a sword as well. Turn 4. Maze This time is in initiative order. She's not going to use her reaction, so she makes the attack first. She misses, and her sword sticks in the ground. So to me, I would say she probably rolled a 1. She was trying to shoot for that, what we say, AC 14 for the Swordsman. Missed, but actually rolled a 1, so she didn't do very good. Or I personally, if she did roll like a 2 or a 3, she probably also would have done this. Sword sticks in the ground. This allows him, instead of attacking, because he's kind of pushed into the back. I don't know if you can see in the scene, but he's kind of pushed into a like alcove. He wants to disengage. So he disengages and moves to the high ground to give himself some more advantage in the fight. So instead of attacking, he disengages. Because her sword got stuck, she doesn't get an attack of opportunity. Okay, turn 5, May still has the initiative, as we've talked about. She moves closer and re-engages him, but again, she misses, and her sword strike is blocked. The swordsman reacts to the miss by striking May's sword to disarm her. So here, he targets the sword. Personally, for the roll, she's an AC 16, so he needs to roll like a 17 or an 18 to do this kind of precision strike on her, is what I would say. Maybe he gets lucky in this instance and knocks it out of her hand. So now she's disarmed again. Okay, turn 6. Maze holds her action. Why? Because she's been disarmed again. She needs to play defensive. So she holds her action, and the swordsman makes his attack. This time he misses. After all his flurry of attack, she disengages, goes underneath him, and goes behind him and grabs her sword. Because he didn't roll horribly, I would say, like how she rolled a 1, which allowed him to get away, at this point, she would probably need to make a dexterity save to disengage safely. And they need to describe that to you. They need to say, I want to try and dodge out of the way of this sword, and as he's off balance from missing me, I want to move around him and try and pick up my sword. Okay, I would say that it'd probably take a dexterity roll of 14. Again, I'm gauging that on the swordsman's ability, so I'm kind of bouncing it off his AC. That's usually AC 14. I'm going to say she's going to need to roll an DC 14 dexterity check to get around him and get back to her sword and re-equip herself. Turn 7, we're almost to the end. Maze holds her action. She's gotten her sword back in hand, but now she wants to react to whatever his next attack is going to be. So she holds her action. The swordsman, he stabs, missing, I guess, wide left as she sidesteps him. And again, I want you describing all of this to her in all of these instances. And you guys need to describe how it's happening and how the attack missed and where kind of the sword ended up, where the weapon ended up, depending on what's going on. Maze does her reaction. She twists, and the swordsman's overextended right hand, because he only has his right hand weapon left, and she twists into it, disarming him, and takes the second weapon and moves behind him. So in the disarm, she's going to move behind him. So I guess I personally would just make this a little hard because she wants to do an attack to disarm. So that's probably going to be an AC 14, add 2 to make it harder, because she's kind of pinpointing a weapon to disarm it. So it's going to be a 16 to disarm. And then after he's disarmed, she wants to move around him, and because he's been disarmed, I would say that's okay. He won't get an attack of opportunity. If he does, it's just going to be like a punch or something like that as she moves around. So 4 HP ish anyways, so not the end of the world. Don't let your characters be too scared to take a hit. It's like the Professor Dungeon Master said, you could put a player character in a room full of crossbows, but if they don't have proficiency in a crossbow, sometimes they won't pick them up and use them, and that sucks. You want your characters to think outside the box and be okay with taking damage sometimes. Be okay with using a weapon that they don't have proficiency in. Be okay with being creative and using something. If they want to stab someone with that, rabbit bone they picked up in the forest, do it. You don't have proficiency in it, but hey, it's freaking cool, and I would definitely help you make sure that attack hits. So she moves behind him, and then start of the turn, this is final turn, turn 8, she pretty much moves in for a coup de grace. I would consider this attack kind of a grapple attack. So this time it's very hard for her because it's more of a strength-based attack. So she's going to make a strength-based attack. You could do a roll-off if you want. So it's a contested roll, his roll versus hers, and she can add her stuff and he can add his. I would probably give him a +2 while she might have whatever her strength bonus is. Let's say it's probably a +2 as well. So it's a roll-off that way. Or she has to roll a grapple check against his AC of 14, but this time using her strength stat instead of her dexterity stat. So again, hopefully she's not scared to do that because she's probably a high dex person, 18, 20, something like that, but not so great strength-wise. But don't be afraid to do this because here's what she sets up. She uses that grapple check to do a coup de grace setup. She pretty much sets him up. So, okay, I can kill you the second I want to at this point. So what are you going to do? So I like this. This is a great way to subdue a character, an evil, the main bad guy, something like that. This is a way to if you need to capture him, you want to do that grapple and set up a coup de grace. And I would let a character just finish them off. Like they're going to be able to finish off that character if they, even twitch wrong the way that they want to, and without making a roll is what I'm saying. Like they have it set up so they got him at their mercy. Okay, so what did we learn? I hope you guys have seen how you can make a cinematic fight. If you guys have any questions, if you think I described something wrong, or if you think that I did anything different, or if you have any better ideas, trust me, I am not the be-all end-all of how this should work, but I think this is how you could do a very well narrated descriptive fight. And it's important that those characters go right after one another, and that's why the reaction is so important. So allowing your characters to react and telling them that they can do that, show them this video if you can, about how that they can use a reaction to an enemy's miss to do something cool. So hopefully this will spice up your combat, make it a little bit better. That's all I got for today, guys. Please comment a sword emoji in the comments below. It helps with our algorithm and getting us promoted if you made it this far in the video. And otherwise, that's all I got. Thanks, guys, for watching. Leland out.